Good morning, Doc. Good morning, classmates. My topic this morning is all about the learning design and instructional design. I am Mae M. Sabandal, your reporter, and to our professor, Dr. Grace Flores. Good morning, ma'am. Okay, what is learning design? Learning design refers to the variety of actions related with planning, structuring, and sequencing learning activities. Learning design as a term originated in the technical community and began to gain prominence around 2004, following the development of an educational markup language at the Open University of the Netherlands. This results in a product of the design process in the form of A. Documentation, such as lesson plan, piece sitter, and so forth. Second, representation, such as posters, diagram, charts, and models. Learning design forms part of the teacher's consistency in their teaching and adaptability to changes brought within the education system. For instance, use of technologies in classroom. We have the focal aspects on the design process. Focus on design process. We have quality technologies, variety of new technologies, effective and innovative ways of using these technologies by teachers. The design process, mapping the pedagogy attentively, utilizing technologies to enhance learning, balancing the activities that learners are supposed to undertake while using the technologies. Why focus on design? It is to ensure that design process is explicit and can be shared. To support the teacher's competency on integrating technologies and new resources in their teaching successfully. We have the importance of the learning design. Design is an inherent part of any teacher's practice. In preparing for teaching sessions or creating learning materials, activities, and assessments. Indeed, it is so core to what they do that is often taken for granted. The aim of this formal specification was to provide a framework for describing teaching strategies and learning objectives in a method that allows easy interchange between e-learning providers. It is core to the teaching process and to the ultimate learning experience students has a result of how a teaching session or some learning materials are designed. They assessed where teachers should produce the opposite example to illustrate a complex concept. And of course, we have the difference between learning design and the learning activities. When we say learning design, it provides a means of guiding the creation of learning activities, as well as representing learning activities so that they can be shared between tutors and designers. For examples, this might consist of illustrating learning activities in an easy to understand way as a diagram and or text so they can be shared between a teacher and a designer. Be repurposed for one teacher to another. Serve as a means of scaffolding the process of creating new learning activities. Provides the tools for practitioner to capture their innovative practice in a form that is not only easy to share but also gives them ownership of the problem and solution. Such a scaffold might be in a form of an online tool to provide support and guidance to a teacher in the steps involved in creating. While the learning activities are those tasks that students undertake to achieve a set intended outcomes. Examples might include finding and synthesizing a series of resources from the web, contributing to a for and against debate in a discussion forum, manipulating data in a spreadsheet, constructing a group report in a wiki, and summarizing a salient points of a podcast. And now we have the value of learning design as an approach in BHAM's view. Teachers have had to make that process more explicit because without face to face contact, You can't fix things on the fly if they start going wrong by Betham. Betham talks about the possibility of learning design existing as an unarticulated shared expertise. The point is to become aware of it, do it better, and of course, to share the practice and the results. There are significant advantages in instilling of the tenets of good design across the teaching and support staff of an educational institution or within a training context. A clearer perception by the teacher of good examples of teaching or learning support. More efficient use of the teacher's time. More efficient and effective learning on the part of the students. More useful sharing of pedagogic insights across the teaching and support staff and across disciplines. And now let's proceed to my second topic, which is the instructional design. But before I will define what is instructional design, please let me present to you what is instructional and the design. When we say instructional, it is a set of events that facilitate learning, while the design, it is a creative pattern or a rational, logical, sequential process intended to solve problems. Okay, what is instructional design? Instructional design is defined as the systematic and reflective process of translating principles of learning and instructions into plans for instructional materials, activities, information resources, and evaluation. According to the Instructional Design Central, instructional design is the process by which learning products are experienced or designed, developed, and delivered. These learning products include online courses, instructional manuals, video tutorials, learning simulations, and etc. The terms instructional design, instructional technology, learning experience or LX design, the curriculum design, and the instructional systems design or the ISD are sometimes used interchangeably. Let's proceed to the history of instructional design. During World War II, a considerable amount of training materials for the military were developed based on the principles of instruction, learning, and human behavior. These tests for assessing a learner's ability were used to screen candidates in the Army. After the success of military training, psychologists began to view training as a system and develop various analysis, design, and evaluation procedures. In the other words, the birth of instructional design is strongly related, on one hand, to the emergence of empirical research in psychology and education, and on the other, to specific needs of the system. We have the purpose of the instructional design. It helps the teacher to develop their capacity to teach more students and create conducive environment for them. It helps curriculum makers to plan learning center and curriculum which provides a variety of educational experiences to students. It helps to make materials and create more interesting and effective instructional materials and learning sources. And it stimulates to develop the new educational forms and educational opportunities which will replace the schools of today. Of course, we have the benefits and the limitations of instructional design. We have the advantages and the disadvantages. In advantages, it supports effective, efficient, and appealing instructions. It facilitates congruence among objective activities and assessment, provides a systematic framework for dealing with learning problems, and the learning effectiveness. And when it comes to disadvantages of the design, instructional design does not have limits of applicability. It is not the solution of all the ills and problems of education and training, nor it is the only method for creating education. time consuming in a way that it takes time to learn how to follow the instructional design procedures and implement when the training being created. A good instructional design requires a number of resources. And of course, we have the theoretical foundations of instructional design. First, instructional design theory is founded under learning theory, pedagogical theory, and instructional theory, and draws from many other fundamental disciplines such as motivation research. All these disciplines have their word to say about pedagogic strategy. Second, it's also craft and engineering disciplines whose method draw a lot from software engineering. Third, modern sophisticated instructional design make use of instructional technologies. Some authors even argue that some of the more interesting designs can't be done without technology. Instructional design and educational technology depend on each other. And fourth, the planning of an e-learning environment in the sense of instructional design should be evidence orientated. This means that decision for methods, design, and motivation are accredited through empirical results. This can be searched through design patterns, edit formats, which have been approved to solve a problem by Nigamon in 2013. These are my references. And of course, thank you for listening.